Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video, and today we're going to be doing my essential Dick Grayson comic book list. Now, the reason why I'm doing an essential Dick Grayson comic book list as opposed to essential Robin or essential Nightwing is because Dick Grayson is a character that has grown throughout the years. He has changed. He's been the pesky boy wonder Robin, became his own man as Nightwing, and grew up into the role of the Dark Knight itself, the Batman. He's also a character that's much loved by the fans, and a lot of people want to know more about Dick Grayson exclusively. Not just his personas he's had, but the character himself. And I figure, seeing that it is a character that a lot of people are interested in, and a character a lot of people love, might as well do an essential list showcasing the stories that you would want to read if you want to get into Dick Grayson, the character himself. Now, just to let you guys know that I will be doing this under the same format as my previous essential list, giving you a classic list, a modern current list, and an overall comic book list. However, I must warn you that the overall comic book list will probably be longer than my previous two essential videos overall comic book list. That's because Dick Grayson has gone through a lot of changes throughout his tenure as a comic book character. And in addition to that, his comic and his character kind of spans into different comics. With Batman, you can read just the Batman and Detective comics to get the essential Batman material. You don't need to go into Justice League, although it does help. You don't need that comic. However, with Dick Grayson, the Teen Titans is an essential part to his character's history, as well as him joining the Justice League currently. So I'm going to incorporate a lot of outside comics in addition to the main Dick Grayson material like Robin, Nightwing, and Batman. So with that said, let's get into the first of the essential lists. Okay, on to the classic Dick Grayson essential list. These are stories that you can just pick up, read, enjoy, and put down. You really don't need to know much about stuff that came beforehand or stuff that came after. So with that said, let's jump into it. Starting things off is I would recommend to everyone, if you want some classic Dick Grayson as Robin, the Batman Chronicle series. This is up to a 9-volume series right now. This is volume 2. And Dick Grayson is pretty much throughout the whole entire series. This is really the start of the character and the start as Robin as a hero too. Definitely recommend picking this up. Next would also be the Batman Showcase Presents series, which deals with Batman and Robin during the Silver Age of comics. Same as the Chronicle series, this is a great Robin Dick Grayson material, especially if you want more of a dynamic duo Robin rather than him off on his own doing his own thing. This is a 4-volume series currently. I believe a 5th one's going to be coming out soon, so definitely recommend this. Another Showcase Presents series would be Showcase Presents Robin the Boy Wonder. Now, I was actually hesitant about this series when I first heard about it and first looked through it, because I thought this was just going to be recollecting stories that were major Robin stories from the Showcase Presents Batman series. But it's not. This is very much a coming-of-age Robin series, where it deals with him as a little kid, and then him going off to college, and see him grow and kind of go off and do his own thing. Definitely something I would recommend if you want some Dick Grayson alone being Robin. So, Robin, the Boy Wonder Showcase Presents. Next would be Robin Year One, done up by one of my favorite all-time Batman writers, Chuck Dixon. This is just your general introduction to Dick Grayson in the modern continuity as Robin. Him growing, trying to figure out where he belongs and how he's going to fit into Batman's world. Great story, very well told, and you get to see some classic Batman villains like Two-Face and the Mad Hatter. So, Robin Year One, definitely something to pick up if you want some classic Dick Grayson. Moving on would be the new Teen Titans Archive series. Now, this stuff is not cheap, and there's a lot to it. I know, there's a lot to it. But these are great stories that have Dick Grayson in it, and it's probably some of the best comics I've ever read. You can get the Archive series, and there's 4 of them. There's honestly an omnibus that's going to be coming out, but I recommend going for the Archive editions. And like I said, not only are these great stories for Teen Titans, but this is really where Dick Grayson starts to grow, mature, and become his own man. Step outside the shadow of Batman, the Dark Knight. Definitely worth picking up if you have the money. They are expensive at $50 a pop. You could probably get them at a Comic-Con or online for a little bit cheaper. And if so, I recommend doing so because these are definitely worth getting, especially if you're a Dick Grayson fan. Which jumps into the 2-volume story of Teen Titans, the new Teen Titans, Terra Incognito, and the Judas Contract. This really should have been collected into 1 volume, but they put it into 2. This is really where Dick Grayson steps outside the Robin persona and becomes Nightwing, because this is actually where he becomes Nightwing. Terra Incognito, this is the 1st volume, and the Judas Contract is the 2nd volume. Great story in general. Definitely recommend picking up both of them. And like I said, this is where he becomes Nightwing for the first time. Which brings me to Nightwing Year 1. Similar to Robin Year 1, this is really dealing with Dick Grayson being Nightwing for the first time and really kind of becoming his own man. You get to see many different people from the Batman universe show up. Batgirl, Batman. You even see a bit of the Titans thrown in there. But this is really, if you want to focus on Dick Grayson becoming Nightwing, this is where you want to go. So Nightwing Year 1. Also written by Chuck Dixon. Chuck Dixon really commanded the Batman universe for quite some time. Now, before Dick Grayson became Batman today, he was actually Batman yesterday. In the 90s, after the Nightfall series, Batman passes on the mantle to Dick Grayson for a short time so he can go off and, I don't know, play Super Mario World. So, Batman Prodigal is the first time Dick Grayson becomes Batman. And I feel as though this story has a lot more meaning to it than the current Batman Dick Grayson persona, because at this time Dick Grayson was going through a really rough point in his life, and he really sees and steps into the shoes of Batman and sees that the world has changed and it's not like it was back when he was Robin, and he has a newfound respect for Batman, and they really mend up their relationship here. In addition to that, this is a great story if you want to see some relationships between Tim Drake and Dick Grayson, because you really see it flourish here too. Moving on would be Nightwing: A Night in Bloodhaven, which is the start of Nightwing's actual comic book series. Just overall great comic book and a great story in itself, and a great entryway into the Nightwing series. The art is fantastic, and it's a story that you can just pick up, read, and put down. The only disadvantage to the story is it is a little expensive. If you don't find it in a comic book store, it's going to be a lot online. So I recommend fishing around in a comic book store at a Comic-Con to get this book. But it is a great standalone Nightwing story, and it also is a good gateway into the Nightwing series. Moving on would be Batman: Battle for the Cowl. Although this is kind of tied heavy to continuity, you actually don't need to know what's going on to enjoy this book. It is Batman, Bruce Wayne, no longer around, and everyone is trying to become Batman. And it really is Dick Grayson stepping up and being the man. Great art, overall good story, and this is where Tony Daniel starts to come into his own and really become a good Batman artist, but also a good Batman writer. And last on the list for the classic Dick Grayson material would be the Streets of Gotham series, Leviathan and Hush Money. Now, Hush Money comes first, and these stories are individual one-shot stories, although some of them have connection to previous stories. Like Hush Money does have connection to all the stories. They all are kind of an overall story arc. But Leviathan is a little bit more standalone stories, and this is really just great material of Dick Grayson being Batman. You can just pick up these stories and put them down. Very street level, very dirty crime level detective work, which is really what Batman is at his core and essence. And it's really good to see a take of Batman with Dick Grayson in this kind of atmosphere. And it's done up by Paul Dini, who is arguably one of the best Batman writers of all time. So that is the classic Batman, Dick Grayson, Nightwing, Robin, whatever you want to throw it out as. Let's just call it Dick Grayson Essential List. Let's move on to the modern, current Essential List. Now, the modern, current Dick Grayson comic book list is going to focus more or less on his work as the Batman. Because, well, Dick Grayson is Batman right now, at least one of them. So with that said, let's just jump into it, and bringing it back out would be Batman, Battle for the Cowl. Great story, well told, great art, good action, and it's Dick Grayson stepping up and being the man. It's kind of a restart to Dick Grayson as a superhero for this day and age because, of course, he is becoming the Batman. Moving on would be Batman, Long Shadows. Now, Dick Grayson hasn't had much time to grieve for Bruce Wayne, and he needs to figure out how he is going to be the Batman. And in this book, he finds out he's a totally different creature as Batman than Bruce Wayne is, facing up against one of his most, well, dangerous villains, Two-Face. Long Shadows, definitely something to pick up for your current, modern Dick Grayson reading. Next we're going to throw out there is, once again, the Streets of Gotham City series. The Hush Money series, which deals a lot with Hush and deals with a lot with what's going on with him, but just overall it's fun Dick Grayson material. And also Leviathan, which is arguably the better of the two. A lot of street level, gritty crime detective police work material for Dick Grayson. Again, great art, well told by Paul Dini, along with some other writers that contribute here and there. Moving on is Batman, Life After Death. This deals with the new Black Mass. But more importantly, this is Dick Grayson really realizing that he is Batman. This is no longer Dick Grayson pretending to be Batman. This is Dick Grayson, the Batman, stepping out of the shadow of Bruce Wayne and becoming his own Dark Knight. Fantastically well told story. Not a lot of people like it, and I don't know why, because it is a great Batman story. I definitely highly recommend picking this up. Batman, Life After Death. Moving on is the Batman and Robin series, which is right now collected into two volumes. Volume 1 and Volume 2. Now, the third volume is going to be coming out soon, and this is really just the dynamic duo a little different. Now Robin's the gritty little guy, and Batman's kind of a little bit carefree. These are great stories, well told, and it connects into other Batman stories done up, like Return of Bruce Wayne and Final Crisis, and, all that stuff. But we're not talking about Bruce Wayne here. No, we're not. We're talking about Dick Grayson. Great dynamic, and the thing about this is you're going to think Damian is really the star of the book, but Dick Grayson's story is more of a subtle, quiet story, and is still nicely done. Volumes 1 and 2, I believe you can get them into trade now, but you can also get them in hardcover. Definitely something you want to pick up for your current Dick Grayson reading. Next would be Justice League of America Team History. Now, I'm going to admit this is probably not the best Justice League comic out there. Actually, it's not really that good at all. But it's the restart of the Justice League team, and Dick Grayson is leading it. And to really kind of get what's going on in the rest of the Justice League material, it's probably wise to pick up. Not the best story out there. Actually, it's downright bad. But I do recommend picking it up. And it's very rarely do I recommend picking up stuff that are bad. It's for the greater good. The last on the list will be Justice League of America Dark Things. Comes right after Team History, a big improvement because the Justice League is starting to get its groove, starting to get to feel where it belongs. And Dick Grayson is really stepping into the role as leader of Justice League. He's led teams before, like the Teen Titans and the Outsiders, but we're talking about the Justice League here. And on a whole, it's a good story. So if you like Dick Grayson and you like team-ups, you're going to get it here. Justice League of America, Dark Things. So with that said, we're going to jump into the big one. We are going to jump into the big essential Dick Grayson comic book list. On to the big one, the essential comic book list for Dick Grayson. This is a list of comics that you want to get if you really love Dick Grayson as a character, if you really want to get into him, no matter if he's Batman, Robin, or Nightwing. Starting things off, and there's going to be some reoccurring comics, and you're going to see this right now, would be the Chronicle Batman series. As stated before, this is really introducing Dick Grayson into the DC Universe, his early material as Robin. Some great stuff, really enjoyable. There's been 9 volumes right now. The 10th one is going to be coming out soon. Definitely recommend picking up if you want classic Dick Grayson as Robin. Which moves on to, again, the Showcase Presents Batman series, which is the Silver Age Robin material. Very classic with Batman and Robin. A little campy, but that's okay. It's been 4 volumes. Definitely recommend picking this up if you want to have that dynamic duo feeling with Dick Grayson. Which brings me into, again, the Showcase Presents Robin series. Like I said, it's kind of a coming-to-age story for Robin, for Dick Grayson. Going from the pesky little foul-mouthed, well, not really foul-mouthed, but loud-mouthed teen wonder to becoming his own man as Robin, doing his things his own way, not having to have Batman there. Definitely recommend picking this up. Moving in, again, Robin Year 1. Introduction of Dick Grayson into the modern continuity of Robin and focus mainly on him. And I do recommend getting this because I also put on the list Dark Victory, which is the story that tells how Dick Grayson is recruited by Batman, brought in by Batman in the modern continuity. This is a little bit more of a Batman story than a Dick Grayson story, but it's still something to throw on there because this is where he becomes Robin. It kind of goes well and coincides well with Year 1. This is the introduction. Year 1's a little bit more of an expansion. Moving on is, once again, you gotta have this stuff because it's that good. The archive edition of the New Teen Titans material. Like I said beforehand, New Teen Titans is really where Dick Grayson grows up, becomes a leader, really becomes his own man, really steps things up. Great stories in general, great Robin stories are thrown in there. I can't say enough good about this, but like I said, putting aside the fact that it's Teen Titans, this is great if you're into Robin and Dick Grayson. It is just fantastic. So I definitely recommend picking up the archive edition of Teen Titans. Really worth it. Moving on, we're continuing the new Teen Titans series, again with Terra Incognito and Judas Contract. Now, again, these stories are very nicely told, and it's also where Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing for the first time. So you definitely want to pick these up. Judas Contract and Terra Incognito. Terra Incognito comes before Judas Contract. Moving on would be the new Teen Titans, Terra of Trigon. Now, this is a great Teen Titans story and one of my favorite individual Teen Titans story. Nightwing plays a good role in here, and you also get to see some drama with Nightwing and Batman and Jason Todd. Although it may be kind of fake drama, it's still drama nonetheless. And it's just enjoyable. It's a great story. Nightwing's in it. That's all that matters. It's fun. Pick it up. And lastly, and you guys are going to probably think this is a curveball, but the new Teen Titans, who is Donna Troy? Andrew, we're talking about Dick Grayson here, not Donna Troy. I know you love Donna Troy, but why are you throwing that out there? There's a reason. Dick Grayson and Donna Troy's relationship is absolutely beautiful. They're best friends. They're sister and brother. They have worked with each other for the longest time. And out of all the original Titan members with Wally and Garth and Speedy, they're the ones that always seem to be with each other, working with each other. Now, although this is very much a Donna Troy story, the acts and the friendship between her and Dick Grayson showed here is just, it's touching. It really is. Dick Grayson goes out of his way to help find Donna Troy's real parents. And it is just, it's like best friends, brothers and sisters. Really, it's a touching material. And although it's predominantly Donna Troy, there's good Dick Grayson stuff in here, and I do recommend it. Moving on, it's once again Nightwing Year 1, a good companion to Judas Contract. You get to really see from Nightwing's main perspective of his story of becoming Nightwing, of him stepping into his own persona. Definitely something to pick up. On to Batman the Wrath. This is good because it has Nightwing featured in it, and the Wrath is basically the opposite of Batman. That's the first story. The second story is dealing with the Wrath's sidekick, and is really kind of a showdown between Nightwing and that Wrath, and it's pretty cool. It's a nice story, and it's a good Dick Grayson story, so definitely recommend checking this one out. Moving on is once again Batman Prodigal. Really is Dick Grayson dealing with a lot of trouble in his life, with the Titans, with his personal life, with his love life, with Batman, with Robin, with everything. And it really is him just finally growing up. And him kind of mending the bridges with Batman. Definitely pick it up. This can be hard to find and this can be expensive. I didn't mention that beforehand, but if you do find it, get it. Moving on is Batman, Officer Down. Now, Dick Grayson is really the star of this. Batman doesn't really do much. Commissioner Gordon has been shot. No one knows who shot him, and Dick Grayson and company go out to find out who's the shooter. And it's really a nice detective story with Dick Grayson at the helm. Definitely recommend picking that up. Okay, next we're going to move on to the big stuff. Ready? Nightwing. A Night in Bloodhaven. Starts off the Nightwing series. Really nicely done story. Chuck Dixon is a mastermind at almost anything Batman. He has so much diversity and ability to write anyone in the Batman universe. Really showcases here. Great story. And I'm basically going to run through Chuck Dixon's run on Batman. Love and Bullets. This is also a great Nightwing story, which deals with Man-Bat. Deathstroke the Terminator jumps in. You also get to see a little Huntress, a little Robin. Great stuff. So, Love and Bullets. Yes, Love and Bullets. I thought I picked up the wrong one for a second there. Next would be A Darker Side of Justice. Again, it's just great Nightwing material. It's Nightwing during the No Man's Land, during Cataclysm. You also get to see a little team up with Superman, and is continuing Chuck Dixon's fantastic and, I dare say, legendary run on Nightwing. I want to just note that The Hunt for Oracle would be on this list, but I don't have that comic, so I can't show it to you. So if you find it, pick it up. Next would be Nightwing Big Guns. You get to see a little bit more development in some of Nightwing's villains, particularly Torque, and you get to see a little bit more of Nightwing as a cop, too. Just overall good Nightwing material. And then to end Chuck Dixon's run on Nightwing, it is sad. On the Razor's Edge, Nightwing goes up against an enemy from his past. In addition to that, Catwoman plays around with Nightwing, and it could be a deadly combination when she's thrown in. So On the Razor's Edge, really nice. And finally, to end the Nightwing stuff would be Nightwing The Lost Year. This is really dealing a lot with Nightwing after the Infinite Crisis, what happened after the Infinite Crisis, what happened with Barbara Gordon. Good stuff. Definitely recommend picking this up. If anything after the Infinite Crisis for Nightwing, this is a thing to go. It's also done up by Marv Wolfman, who is one of the two masterminds on the new Teen Titans, along with George Perez. Really touching, really well done. And if you're confused with Nightwing in the series up to this point after the Infinite Crisis, this one explains a lot. This really should have been right after the Infinite Crisis. It also deals with the new Vigilante, which is awesome, because the new Vigilante is badass. Next would be Batman Battle for the Cowl. Dick Grayson becoming Batman. Enough said, we went through this before. Again, Long Shadows. I also recommend putting this on to your standard Dick Grayson readings. Gonna throw on just a Leviathan for the Streets of Gotham. If you're gonna really need to pick up the core Dick Grayson stuff, I recommend this over Hush Money. Going through all the Hush stories. Hush, Heart of Hush, House of Hush. Next is Life After Death. I can't recommend this enough. I don't know why people don't like it, but it's a great Batman story with Dick Grayson. It's really Dick Grayson becoming Batman. And we're getting close to the end, throwing up the Batman and Robin series, a new dynamic duo. And like I said, Dick Grayson's story is subtle, a little quiet, but it's still good. Definitely recommend this. I'm throwing definitely out there a lot of times. And then finally, the two Justice League stories I recommended beforehand, which would be Team History and Dark Things. Dick Grayson is now the leader of the Justice League, and you really start to see him shine as that leader. Pick it up. So that is the essential Dick Grayson material you should pick up. If you're going to get into Dick Grayson, that's what you should get into first. I recommend picking up the rest of the Nightwing series. Although it does have ups and downs, it's still a good series and it still follows mainly Dick Grayson. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them, and I hope this was helpful for you guys out there that want to get into a really cool character in Dick Grayson. Dick Grayson, Dick Grayson, Dick Grayson. So with that said, I'm going to end this video here. This is Andrew saying peace out. Well, actually, my next essential video, for those of you that are wondering, is going to be Justice League of America. Now, peace out.